here. We got a lot to cover. Very excited to sit down with my old friend, colleague, business partner. I mean, man, we've been through a lot since 2004. You pretty much brought me into your family, man, and just grateful for your professionalism, your friendship, just everything that you've done. But most importantly, I'm proud of, not just our friendship, but just the impact that you've had on the community. One of the things I remember, that first phone call, I called you up. I was wrapping up law school, doing my distance externship over at VCDS, Ventura Center for Dispute Settlement. And remember, I called you up with that situation, and there was a gal who was predominantly Spanish speaking, and she had a tough scenario. So I reached out to you, and you're like, man, I was just talking about you. I wanna get you introduced to our executive director, Bertha Garcia. So you sat up a lunch, and the rest is history, right?
Rest is history. No, it's been a blessing. And then, I remember when at a family barbecue at our place, when you told us about going to law school, and we thought, that's awesome. This is the guy to do it. And so we've seen the evolution for you, and to be here now, and it's a privilege to watch it, and it's a blessing to have you, a friend, a family friend, and all of these years to see where you've come as well. And I do remember that situation, and that's what caused us to my idea was to get you to sit on our board, right? But even better, you came onto the team. So that was some phenomenal years that we worked together, that we were able to do some great stuff.
Yeah, and you continue that fight, man. So why don't you share with the world just some of the great impact that not only what you personally had. You're the director of lending at VCCDC, Ventura County Community Development Corporation. Did I say that accurately?
You did, yeah.
All right, man. We worked together there. You've been there since what year did you start at? Originally Camarillo Economic Development Corporation, correct?
Originally, yeah. Well, VCCDC and Camarillo, was working for both at the time, but it was back in 2007. So I've been here ever since. Okay. Came on with Berta Garcia as the co-founder of VCCDC, but was also brought in with our late Rodney Fernandez, Camarillo Economic Development Corporation. Just some huge names in the industry around affordable housing development, and we've trying to continue that legacy today. And VCCDC is here to do that. So very passionate about the mission and the vision, and where we're going, and how we continue to evolve to do this in just such difficult times. Obviously, as you mentioned, 2004 when we started working, all the changes that have happened in real estate since then. Right. And I think because of those changes, though, is why I'm still in the business. It is not boring. This business has taken a huge turn, many turns, and what's made it pretty exciting, to stay nimble and try to make changes to better the community, to provide services that, that sometimes just don't exist or otherwise.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I took my hat off out of respect for, you mentioned Rodney. And Rodney Fernandez, maybe you can tell a little bit about his story, but just out of respects, you mentioned the late Rodney. Rodney was a visionary. He had a huge dream, huge impact, is known on a national level in terms of his impact, not only just on the Ventura County community, but also the country. If you wouldn't mind sharing it, just out of respect for him, for Bertha Garcia, for continuing his dream, as well as the great people at Camarillo that still continue to do their awesome work and impact. But you and Bertha, I know, are very close to Rodney. So please share that story if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So Rodney was the founder of Camarillo Economic Development Corporation, also founder of VCCDC along with Berta Garcia. And Rodney had a vision. He realized that home ownership just wasn't going to come very easy. In fact, they were behind the big move around Camarillo Village back in the 1970s. There was a big movement around farm worker housing and displacing farm worker housing. In fact, the little girl that lived in that development that stood in front of the bulldozers so that this place wouldn't get demolished, along with her parents at the age of 5, 7, 8. I don't know exactly what age, but she was just really small. Turns out she goes to UCLA to work on her bachelor's degree, and there's a case study about a situation of how farm workers united to purchase land as a co-op And she realized that was her case, that was her family, that was her situation. So when you mention what he's done, these things have made it to textbooks and case studies around universities around the country.
Right.
He's been important in also founding and different organizations that exist today in Ventura County. Part of the seed monies, part of the think tank, the brainchild of other amazing people in the community coming together to bring different types of resources that we now today work with. I won't mention any names on some of these organizations, but there is a lot of them, and a lot of people that are watching today, if they've ever received a loan for construction, if they've received counseling and education, if they received lending services, down payment assistance, or saw this great development that was built for far more low-income, moderate-income housing rentals, he had a role to play in that, most likely. And even though he left us 4 or so years back, his impact still is up today. So yeah, thank you for that, Brendan.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. And just to give a little bit of a background, and I do, just in terms of giving an overview for the audience of what we're going to cover today is we're going to talk about the impact that you continue to have with VCCDC, right? The big question, I guess the issue, let's just call it that. The big issue out there is the affordability crisis in California, right? The high cost of living, the fact that many of our millennials, many of all the different generations, you want to call them X generation, Y generation, or Gen X, Gen Y, just many of our upcoming youth and young adults have the belief that they can never own in Ventura County in Southern California. They feel that it's out of reach for them. They feel that rent is their only option. They work hard, they went to college, they have student loan debts. That's a whole nother crisis that, we could talk about that, but hopefully some of that will be getting fixed. But even more so than that, the American dream of having your own home, of having a roof over your head, of being able to come home to a property and say, this is my home, right? This is where I'm going to raise my babies and plant roots. And we already know the statistics. I remember you and I used to sit at the table with Bertha and with the team and speak to these different organizations and, in the community, and just to get the word out. And that's the goal of this video, is to get the word out of that huge impact that you and VCCDC are having on the community. But more importantly, the fact that the American dream is attainable because of the efforts, because of the fact that you've dedicated, you said since 2000, was it? 2007.
Yeah.
So more than a decade of your life, you've committed to this organization, to this cause. And there's some amazing resources out there. So that's our goal. So when we say about an hour, there's so much to cover, so much great information. This will definitely be well worth your time. And then please share this with anybody that this could impact, because the whole mission behind VCCDC is about changing lives through home ownership. It's creating wealth through home ownership for many people that may believe that it isn't going to happen for them, and that they will continue to work hard and never see that light at the end of the tunnel. And we've seen fathers, wives, husbands, single mothers, families in tears by the impact that you've had. And I'm sure that feeds your passion. I still get goosebumps talking about it, and we're reliving some of those experiences and some of that impact. But I commend you on your efforts, your sacrifice, with your family, with everything that you've done to have the impact that you have. So I just want to pay that special acknowledgement to you, because I don't feel you get the proper introduction. And
I appreciate that.
I hope that is appropriate. And I know you're humble, and you've always been that way. But just appreciate you, man. I appreciate what you're doing. I'm rooting for you in any way that I can help and be of service. I'm hoping this is a good first effort towards that. But know that I'm here for you. I back the cause. I respect what you're doing. And anything that you'd like to share just in terms of your passion for what it is that you do.
I appreciate that, Brandon. And I obviously cannot take the credit. Always had an amazing team behind me. The team has come and gone. Team members have advanced, have grown up, and taken on the world as well. And so we're proud of them. But there's always been a solid team. And within the team was all of them following and committing to the same passion, to the same mission that we have for the organization. And you hear it a lot. Maybe you can go out somewhere else and probably make a lot more money. right, in this industry, but it is very fulfilling to do what we do, especially because if we didn't do it, there's very few, and I'm talking about on a country level, that actually would. So the difference that we do play, I hate to try to pat myself on the back, but I'm patting the organization and what they've done. I'm just a guy on the boat, on this ride. But where they're moving and what we're doing, we realize how it is a difference maker for many families that don't fit to the typical box of a typical lending products that exist out there. So to bring a lot of different types of resources together, working with municipalities, working with different nonprofit organizations, working with a lot of the ideas that you brought into when you were here, we still have those implemented and those have still worked. And it's all of this smart people, smarter than me, that are coming in to make changes that continue to drive the organization forward. And but more importantly, driving them forward to be able to provide programs and products that these folks that you just mentioned never thought would have an opportunity to buy. A lot of them are out there right now thinking, I'm done. It's not going to work. I'm not going to do it. They're thinking about other states that they're going to probably move to, pack away from, leave their families. Right. Those are major decisions. And we see that some people have had to make that decision, obviously. But a lot of them have made the decision not realizing that there are resources that they may have been able to take advantage of. Now, look, so all of the resources aren't going to be for everybody, right? There's still guidelines that you got to fit in, but it behooves you to learn about them and to gather information so that you have all the information necessary to make the most educated decision. Do you stay or do you go? And that's what we try to provide. Now, we don't have a huge platform to be able to disseminate a lot of the information that we have. We are a nonprofit 501c3. Just today I was on a conference call for trying to request funding from our CDFI, the Certified Development Financial Institution. That's a designation that we have with the U.S. Department of the Treasury, and we're working to try to bring more monies into the county as we expand into Kern County, Los Angeles County, and Santa Barbara County is what we've been working on. But we know that we need it. And as we sit down and crunch the numbers and research and impact, we're seeing the numbers of, man, this is needed. This is required in this county. And we need to try to bring these monies in.
Right. So you mentioned about many people moving out of state. There was actually a stat for 2018, 690,000 households left the state of California. Roughly about 600 came in, but we still had about 100,000 deficit. And this has been the trend since 2011, which was actually the bottom of the market. The trough was in 2011. Since 2011, more than 1 million households have left the state of California at a deficit. We still have an influx of people coming in, but traditionally the people that are coming in are higher income earners. So many of our middle class, many of our teachers, many of our just hardworking middle class that keeps the country thriving, keeps the state thriving, they're moving out of state based on affordability. Right. And sometimes just not knowing all their options that are out there. So that's what our goal is here today, to talk. This could be a potential option. And now more than ever, especially with the pandemic that we currently have, where many are fearful that they have to spend their savings right now. They've saved their money for a home and they need to spend that money to make sure that they can eat, that they can pay their bills, that they can pay their rent, that they can do the things. And this was all money set aside, but now their job's on hold, right? Because of the stay-at-home order, which has had a huge impact on everybody, where they're talking about unemployment potentially going up to 30%. So it's critical that we get this word out there. I appreciate your time again. I know you're busy. I mean, we had to connect at 8 o'clock last night to finally get in touch because you're slammed. And as we talk about, we are busier now at the stay-at-home order, and some of it's the adjustments to just home life now, and screaming children in the background and staying up later at nights and helping out where we can help out. But I do feel everything happens for a reason. I feel there's a reason you and I are on this call right now, putting this video out to get it out. And if we impact one person, if we just kind of raise the aha for one person, hey, maybe this will work for me. It's worth the time. So thank you again for the time. Let's talk about it now. Let's jump right into it.
Okay.
Talk about some of the products and programs. I guess a little bit about VCCDC, just so you know. So, Alex, you lead out the lending team. You're the director of lending there, right? You have
Yeah.
your team. You also have a HUD-approved agency that does counseling services that helps prepare for home ownership. So you have an 8-hour course that's a home buyer workshop for anybody who's utilizing the down payment assistance. So these are just, I'm just kind of just giving a heads up of some of the details of where we're going to get into. But more importantly, with that counseling as well, there's a huge impact that counseling has, including foreclosure prevention, including helping prep people. There's the cash program. I know we'll get into that, and then as well as CRA. I know that's quite a few different topics to touch on, and I want to start with the down payment assistance because I think that's going to be the nugget for those that we have watching. We got a handful of people on Facebook Live right now that are watching. Let's let them know about the down payment assistance so they're aware of it. What is it because of your CDFI designation that allows you to partner with some major players here in Ventura County, Santa Barbara County, Kern County? But most importantly, I guess the first thing that I'll share with it, and I'm not trying to steal your thunder right now, but the first thing I want to share is this down payment assistance program. There's a few different ones that are available, but the one major one that has a huge impact not only allows homeowners to purchase the property with the down payment assistance at a payment that they can afford at a higher price than they would have been able to without it. More than that, when they purchase that home, there aren't resale restrictions in the sense of, and correct me if I'm wrong, where they don't get the equity that's attained by every other homeowner in the county. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So that's huge. That's a huge game changer, because a lot of times you hear about affordable housing where they have resale restrictions, that you have to sell it at an affordable price. With the programs and the products that Alex is going to touch on and get into, these products allow you to purchase a property just like everybody else and then realize that equity so that you can make that equity. But a lot of times it's that first one that we have to get a homeowner into. And if we can get them into the game, if we can get into the game of home ownership, they can now not only get the tax write-off, they can get the appreciation of the property. They have a fixed home, so nobody can tell them, hey, you got 60 days notice, market's turning, because we all know we're in a cyclical market. And with the fears that are happening, I guarantee you're going to see some listings coming up. So we'll talk about a little bit of that as well. But I really want to emphasize that the buyer gets to keep all of the equity. They obviously have to pay these loans off, but everything else in terms of appreciation, they get to sell it to anybody else out there, right? It's not required to even have to sell it to a first-time home buyer?
Not required, no.
Perfect. Do you mind elaborating a little bit on that and kind of breaking down the down payment assistance?
No, and you bring up a great point, because I think there isn't enough information about this, and there's so many types of different types of down payment assistance programs that come from different buckets. And in fact, within those different buckets, we've been able to bring them all together to one buyer. So we layer all of this financing. Now, you mentioned some of it that, they'd have to pay back. A lot of this is actually forgivable money, grant funds. So when we discuss about building wealth, these monies is that exactly that, layered financing. So we'll talk about one, for example, that we've had at VCCDC since 2006 or so, and we've been disseminating these monies ever since. And this comes from the state. It's a very competitive process to apply for these monies through the state. And we've been successful at getting it every single time that these monies become available. Why? Because we're getting them out to the right folks. The eligibility criteria is exactly what the program requires. And we've had huge success with all of it. So we are even considered, and the state can tell you this, we're the poster child as an organization for this type of funding. There's other municipalities that get this monies, and we've been able to, when we come in and we get audited, because of course this is state monies, are we providing it to the right people? Are we ensuring that there's an ability to repay? Is it putting them in a better situation? And the answer to all of that is always yes. So this program has kind of changed around time. We noticed that we were able to provide up to $60,000 in some situations per household. This is a deferred loan. It was provided to give them exact monies for down payment, closing cost, or both. And they didn't have to pay this money back right away. it was deferred for 30 years. So it's almost as if we're going to lend you money to put the down payment on a home. So if you're buying a $500,000 home and we're going to give you at that time $60,000, you're only financing $440,000, and you're only qualifying on $440,000 because the other monies is deferred. There's no payment requirements. It would become due in 30 years, or when they sold the home, or if they refinance or pulled cash out, so they'd have to pay it back in that situation. And it did carry a really small 3% simple interest rate. When the time of the affordability after the financial crisis that occurred in 2007, 2008 or so, price of homes were coming down, we were reducing the amount that we were providing just to get that foot in the door so we can spread it out and be able to assist more families. And, we've been doing 20,000 for a while. We're doing 30, we're doing 25 now. And as we see that the home cost is going up and up, we can look at increasing that amount as well. That's our VCCDC Cal Home monies. And we have it today. We have $1 million or so in available funding. Because I think one of the things that I hear a lot is, they run out every time. People run out of monies all the time. Well, in some situations, some funding sources are limited. But when we realize through an organization that's a Down Payment Assistance Resource Center, that about 80% of the population could potentially qualify for some sort of down payment assistance. So, when we talk about, okay, who is eligible for something like that? It's a low-income family. Low-income family that's at 80% or below of the area median income. And it's published by HUD. The one that we use also is published by the Housing Development Community, Housing Community Development, HCD. So there's a lot of different sources, but we understand those. And I'll give you an example of 2020, what a low-income family is today in Ventura County. This is 2020 because these new publications just came out, the new amount. A low-income household size of 4 people in Ventura County that is earning $90,350 a year in gross income or less is considered low income.
Wow.
Right? So there's this notion that we think that low income is, that's not us. That's, no, this is people that we shop with. This is our teachers. This is our firefighters. This is anybody depending on the household size.
Military as well, right?
Military, exactly. But $90,350. This is the same. This is I just printed this one out from the 2020 HUD, and anybody can go on that website and pull this income limits, HUD income limits 2020, and you look up the state and your county.
What about for one? I don't mean to interrupt.
No, not at all.
Okay.
So I'll go right through that.
Yeah, go ahead.
For one person, 63,250 or less. For 2 people, 72,300. For 3 people, 81,350. For 4 people, 90,350. For 5 people, 97,600. For a household size of 6, 104,850. 7 is $112,050, and a household size of 8 is $119,300. So when you look at the statistics on a population, what really the median income is in the United States, the mass majority of people would qualify under these numbers.
Right.
So we gotta stop thinking that, hey, that's not us. We're not low income. That just may be. And that's not a problem to be there, right? In fact, if there is, someone that's earning a household size of 3 in Ventura County that's earning $75,000, that's, you're doing okay.
Right. Now that's good.
In parentheses, you're doing okay, but that could qualify you for down payment.
And it proves the point in terms of, okay, 70,000+ anywhere in the country, you're doing great. It's not even doing okay. But that's the high cost of living here in California, right?
That's exactly it.
In terms of the high cost. So let's just put that in perspective. If somebody does qualify based on their income, just from your experience, where are they looking price point wise? Just to put that into, because that's the number they're probably going to be able to, what do you see as your average buyer who does qualify for this? What price point are they roughly at?
Well, I have to do the calculations, but it's a combination of other things. Before I answer that, I'm going to work on it over here on the side while we do that. But let's talk about some other down payment assistance, how we bring that together. Mm-hmm. So This is the low income component of that. Now, we haven't even gone to moderate income yet, right? That
Right.
there is down payment assistance for moderate income, but let's kind of focus on the programs that we have here at VCCDC.
Right.
Just in April, there's a new release of funding, and we've done this also every year, and we've been very successful every year at bringing these monies into the county. The Federal Home Loan Bank of San Francisco every year provides down payment assistance to first-time buyers. One program in particular that they use is the WISH, is the Workforce Initiative Homeownership Program, which stands for WISH, the acronym. Under this program, it was typically a 3-to-1 match. For every eligible buyer, when I mean eligible is that they're under this income limit that we just read off based on the 2021 now. For any eligible borrower, for every dollar that the borrower came into the transaction, we would match it by $3. As of 2019, that went to a 4-to-1 match. That the borrower came into the transaction.
Sorry, it just popped up on the Facebook Live for some reason.
As of 2019,
One sec.
that went to a 4-to-1
yeah.
match.
So there's a little bit of a delay on it, but for whatever reason, the sound
Give me a
came
little
out.
coffee break.
Yeah, no problem. Let me pause. So there's a little bit of a delay on it, but for whatever reason, the sound came out. There we go. All right, I got the sound off there. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Yeah, no, it's so we're still rolling. You still got a few people that are watching right now, so apologize about that. Did you get your coffee?
I got the swig.
All right, let's do it.
So we're talking about this Federal Home Loan Bank one. Now,
Wish
right
fund,
now,
correct?
yeah, we just talked about our Cal Home loan.
Right.
The Wish product is another product from a different pot of money that we have historically always layered with our monies. It is now a 4-to-1 match. So for every dollar that the eligible buyer comes into the transaction, through the Federal Home Loan Banking System and through our member banks, we're an affiliate of this program, we're able to match it by 4.
Wow.
So if they come in with $5,500 to the transaction, and that could be closing cost, Brandon, we can match up to $22,000 to provide in their home purchase. So if the Cal Home funds are $25,000 today and we can get them the $22,000, that's already $47,000 in down payment assistance that we could provide. So how does this program work? For every year, and I think this is where people think, oh my gosh, I got to stay in my home for 5 years. Well, the way it works is that for every year you stay in your home after you've purchased it and you're making your payments and everything is fine, 20% of that amount is forgiven. So every year, 20% is forgiven until after year 5, you've got the full $22,000 forgiven. That stays as equity in your home. That's a $22,000 raise that you get over a 5-year period.
That's awesome.
So, and that's a way to kind of look at it. Or it's basically $4,400 every year that you are getting in additional monies because it's being forgiven and it stays as equity in your property.
So as little as $5,500 out of pocket, you can get up to $22,000 match. So you put $5,500 in, they'll match $22,000. Is that correct?
They'll match. We'll provide an additional $22,000 towards your purchase.
And that 22 is not on any type of loan that you need to pay back. It's actually forgiven as long as you live in the home for at least 5 years. You have to intend to occupy the property, live in the property. So you can't buy it and then try to rent it out. You need to buy it and live in the property. And as long as you do that, this money is completely forgiven. And did you say this was for the moderate income limit?
This is for that low income that I wrote.
Oh, still low income.
Low income, correct.
So we're still under that scenario. Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
So it's also important. You mentioned something here, Brandon. You said, it's for home ownership. This is really, you got to occupy the property. What we're looking at is we're trying to find programs to house folks. We're not using these monies for investors to buy and rent it out and collect. Look, this money is limited. This one here, and I'll talk a little bit about the different change that the Federal Home Loan Banking System is doing with these monies, but it is for home purchase. It's to shelter families that don't have a home today. It's for first-time home buyers. We again, this is where I think our mission is a little bit different, Brandon. Although we have investors that have come to help us out and we can do a whole cost analysis of their situation on a rental and, look at cash flow. We're sophisticated to do that. But of course, because of what we do, the majority of all the clients that we help is those first-time home buyers. So that's where the passion is. And that's where I think where we realize how these extra leg ups, it's an extra ladder, it's an extra step on that ladder to reach the lowest hanging fruit. Because without that, families aren't able to reach. There was a statistic that Ventura County in the state of California, the state of California is one of the most expensive residential real estate markets, states in the country.
Right.
But Ventura County is the third most expensive when it comes down to the lowest tiered entry level home, which is at 439,000 is the lowest entry level home that we have today. Right. So, okay, if that's the property that we have, how do we get enough? How do we reach high enough to reach that level? And a lot of these programs are the way to do it. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about some new programs that we have that haven't even kind of basically been released yet. But we're working on today to write the guidelines, different types of programs, and we'll do that a little bit more as we go through this. That's another sinking hook that people staying on.
Hey, guess who joined us? I'm just looking over and it's muted now. Laura Cabrera said hi. Nice to see you guys live. Skip Hopkins, he's a Navy retired guy, super good guy. Trini Hernandez, Isaac Leong, and Rick Gaviotti. So welcome, guys. Thank you for watching us. And if they jumped on a little bit later, we got Alex Vega going over down payment assistance, some of the great things that VCCDC has to offer. He's an expert in the field. I don't know anybody who is more well-versed than Alex. So we're truly getting the facts from the source. And that's the whole goal of this is, this isn't about what company you work for. This is about getting the word out there, collaborating, coming together. At a time that we feel disconnected, we got to get more connected, right? And we need to do it through what we have with Facebook Live and this Zoom here. So please continue with what you were sharing there. I know threw you a little bit off track there, but
okay.
No, some great information, especially. So what we were just going over right now is the wish funds that's forgiven. So money that is allocated that helps bridge that gap. You're bringing the lowest entry level in Ventura County is roughly about $400K. I know in Camarillo right now there's a property. It's a 3-bedroom attached property that's at $495, I believe it is. So it's right under $500,000. I have a 2-bedroom that's coming up in Thousand Oaks that we had to put on hold just based on our situation right now with the whole stay-at-home order. But that property is at $540,000 for a 2-bedroom unit in TO. Desirable neighborhood. HOA is $335, I believe it is. It's a single story, 2-car garage, great area, $540, but that's where you're looking, especially in Thousand Oaks. Now, they do have some more affordable areas. Every once in a while, you'll find some properties in the 300 range. And that was one thing I can admit that, working at VCCDC, I felt like I had to become an expert on the properties at 150, in the 200 range, 300 range, where many other people or clients would come to us and say, yeah, these other agents, they say they're too busy for us, right? I guess it's not a high enough price point. So they were also having a difficult chance just getting representation. So no, it's great with what you're doing. It's great for all your partners out there because there are many great agents out there that do help out buyers that are looking for 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom properties. So let's get into some of that. Maybe if you don't mind sharing a success story. You mentioned you had a really good one in Ojai. Do you mind sharing some of the
And that's going to change. That'll bring a different topic, an additional topic to that. But I want to say hello to everybody that's watching.
Sure.
Laura Cabrera, you mentioned her name.
Yeah.
She's one of those great folks that have planted seeds years ago within VCCDC that still continue to blossom today. That a lot of the great success that we experienced is from a lot of people like Laura that have been a part of this team at one point. And it's great to, hi Laura, it's great to see that. And that's why I'm saying it's a massive team. This isn't one person doing it alone. We've got great leadership and just blessed to have worked with a lot of people like you and Laura.
Thank you.
So going back to your question, exactly. It was a success story that we had recently during this whole coronavirus. And this is amazing. So in the city of Ojai, this ties it all together actually. From a development that was built back in the early 2000s by Camarillo. that, resale restricted homes. This is a little bit different, Brandon, when what we're talking about. So these down payment assistance, we mentioned that they are not resale restricted.
Right.
You can still earn the equity on your home. And, if you sell it, you just pay some of these loans back. Some, like the Wish funds, are forgiven, so you don't have to pay back if you're able to stay there over the 5 years. Or if you had to sell in 4 years, you had $4,400 per year that have been forgiven, so you'd only have to pay back $4,400 because you weren't there the 5th year. So in Ojai, we've worked with a lot of municipalities because during the changes of redevelopment, the redevelopment agency was established to be able to assist cities with monies to build more homes, to house for rent or for development, for sale, and mostly, in most cases, in most situations, resale restricted homes. In this one situation, we had one family, the very first one, because it doesn't really make sense in a lot of ways to sell these homes. This was a resale restricted home that today on the market could potentially be sold for $650,000, open market, right? That's where it's at. This family was able to purchase it for just under $300,000.
Wow.
So you're buying a 3-bedroom, 2.25 bath home built in the early 2000s, still brand new. The sellers had kept it up really nice. But when you look at the payment, guys, and I want to let everybody out there know that whatever city you're looking to purchase in, contact those cities. They do have a housing stock of affordable homes. Now, those are resale restricted homes, and the seller has to sell it to another eligible buyer.
Right.
But the math is this, that when you compare apples to apples, a market rate home, what that would sell for, what you would buy it for, what your payment would be compared to an affordable unit. In this case, with this family that I mentioned in Ojai, their payment was about $1,600 per month. That home, the neighbors, if you're buying it at 600 and something, you're looking over $3,500 or so, right? $3,800. So the savings, although you're not able to sell it at depreciated value, think about the $2,000 a month savings that you're having,
right?
And that's your appreciated value over time, right? Yeah. I've done the math on this. I've done slideshows, and we've really worked with different cities to hone in on these numbers and with buyers to say, this still makes sense. It creates affordability. If they need to sell, they're still able to sell it to another family that to pay it forward per se and remain, so that the cities, very important that they maintain an affordable housing stock that they need to now. And this is because of the problems we're having in the state of California. I mean, you probably heard about governor suing Huntington Beach for not doing enough to house all of its residents, not building what they need to build. So as cities, we've got to do more, obviously. And when we talk about the state of California, how expensive it is, in a lot of ways, it's a supply and demand. That's, I remember my micro and macroeconomics. It's a supply and demand. In a lot of situations, we're just not building. We don't want to build. We don't want to do certain things that are causing prices to obviously elevate, because the more demand, the more population we have, and the little supply that we're having is a problem. We're also seeing, I think, Brandon, that during the foreclosure crisis, a group of investors, major investors that came into Ventura County to buy up a huge housing stock of our foreclosed properties. And these are hedge fund companies that were coming from, the East Coast, major, powerful global money market hedge fund companies, and purchased these properties and kept them as rentals, anticipating this growth that disturbed the natural ecosystem of a step it up. I'm going to sell to step up, and that natural progression, there was a huge hole just blown into the center of it all. So where people that would like to move up, they're just fixing up their homes instead of, because there's nobody that can take that huge leap over the canyon that was blown a hole in, to give a metaphor per se. So so that's how we were able to work with this family. This family, while they're going through this process, Brandon, I mean, little girl, their little daughter, cute little girl, under 1 year old, going through surgery, obviously, but they realize that we've got to stick with this, because if we don't, this is our only opportunity. We're not going to get another opportunity like this again. During this whole coronavirus fear, we're going through this process, and they're moving in during this process, I mean, obviously concerned, but cautious, and just elated knowing that we would not have been able to do this had it not been for that. And so, so congratulations to them as well.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that story, because it's and that was recent, right? You just closed that
2 days ago,
2 days ago.
or Monday. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
just for the community and the world to know that real estate is still happening, still moving, things are being done. We have to be safe. You know, there's a stay-at-home order where we are not supposed to do inspections. We're not
Right.
supposed to do open houses. We're not supposed to show property. So it's a different way of navigating.
Right.
But with every challenge does create opportunities. And the market was white hot right before this stay-at-home order, where it was getting back to the multiple offer situation. I'm sure you had plenty of clients that, I know myself, I had plenty of clients that were getting beat out in multiple offer situations. So, and unfortunately, many buyers that are trying to take advantage of the down payment assistance option, because it is their only crack, in a confident buyer's market, or a seller's market, I should say, but high buyer confidence, it is very challenging to get your offer accepted. So that's why it's key that we get the word out there, that there are professionals who are in the background who are working and overseeing and making sure that the job's getting done. And maybe talk about some of the impact that you guys have had as well, you know, at some point. I know I remember seeing that Cal Lutheran study. I think it was over 90% of people who were able to take advantage of the down payment assistance who bought homes wouldn't have been able to do so without VCCDC. Is that correct?
That's right. That's correct. Yeah. Without the layered financing, without the first mortgage products,
Right.
everything combined together, a typical loan that exists today in the open marketplace wouldn't have been enough for them to become homeowners.
So almost as much to say that really you are the last and potentially only hope in some situations for somebody to attain home ownership. So there is obviously a pretty strong demand, but maybe some of the things we can talk about are what people can do now, even if we can't go out and show property right now. But what can they reach out to you? Can they call you? Are you doing Skype, Zoom interviews, right? Meetings with folks, and is
We
counseling
are.
doing the same?
We
Good.
are. So what we're doing right now, and we have a lot of clients that had been in the pipe that have just, you know, obviously the concerns that they have right now about their jobs. And I want to talk a little bit about our counseling and education. It's called our HUD certified counselors, HUD certified agency with the Housing and Urban Development, U.S. Department of Housing. So what we're doing is that we're still meeting with families. People still want to make sure that they're ready to go when this is lifted. Their dream is home ownership. They want to do this. Now, it's a little bit different now, though. For many of them, their hours have been reduced. For many of them, they've had to kind of start looking into going into savings to make some of their monthly payments, rent payments, groceries. There's a lot of other things. One family had mentioned, look, they had to commute very far. They don't have to save. They don't have to spend the money on gas anymore, right? So so a lot of them are being really, really creative. And I think those that actually know exactly where they are is they're writing these things down. They're writing these bills, these expenses down, and figure out where they're going to be able to save. But we still are seeing those folks, so that when we're ready and this lifts, that they're able to kind of quickly move on any opportunities that are there. So still taking online applications, still taking over the phone appointments. The team is Zoom videos like this. But very important also, everybody should know that we our counseling and education department is also moving toward homeowner preservation again. You mentioned Laura. She was here during the time of the foreclosure crisis.
Right.
And as an organization, we had a huge impact at positive success stories to helping families keep their homes during this foreclosure crisis that was happening. We were a HUD certified agency, NeighborWorks organization agency at the time, and we're able to save and have modifications for a lot of families, thousands of families. And so, and this is all a free service. This is all done for free. So now that we're seeing this new demand, this need for, what am I going to do? How do I contact this? You know, there's been news about a forbearance payments on mortgages. You've heard about that. And so want to let everybody know that counseling and education staff is also available for phone calls. What do I do next? Contact servicers. You know, they'll have the playbook, and this is basically dusting it off from the foreclosure crisis in 2008 9, 10, 11, 12 that we were experiencing, unfortunately, on a national level as well. But specifically here in California, we were hit hard. So that's a resource that we also have available for everybody.
That's awesome. And we will share the contact information. So the website, in case you are listening and want to jot it down, it's vccdc.org. You can access all the information, contact information there. But what we'll do is when I do post this on YouTube as well, I'll share in the description the different links to counseling. So touching on the counseling as well, just to reemphasize. So not only are there these programs to help you prepare for a home ownership, there's also programs out there to help you save your home. So home preservation, as Alex had mentioned, foreclosure prevention, loan modification. I remember Keep Your Home California was huge, had a huge impact on a lot of different families so that they didn't have to sell their home as a short sale, so that they didn't have to foreclose their property. Truly saved a lot of different homes. And I remember one of the greatest things is when we had counseling, training the rest of the departments, lending department and the rest of the team out there, that they would teach us and just show us, okay, this is how you keep your budget. This is what you want to do in terms of a credit, working on your credit. This is how you build your savings, right? And there's some other great programs out there as well. So anything you need assistance with, you have the counselors, I remember the big push for coaching. They're coaches, right? And that's really what it is. We all need coaches. We all need experts in terms of what it is that we do to kind of just show us, okay, check these boxes, come up with a game plan. Let's set a goal. Let's attain that goal. We need to save money for a down payment, right? Well, maybe you don't actually need to save as much as you thought you needed to because you can qualify on the lending side. So where's a good place to start? What do you typically recommend somebody who's very green, just starting out? They're just starting to build their career. How many years work experience do they typically need to have? Is there a little bit of flexibility there? Also defining that first-time home buyer. Let's define that as well for folks out there so that they're aware, because some people may not realize that even though they bought a home in the past, they can still qualify.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So a first-time home buyer is obviously never owned a home before. That's the obvious one. But unfortunately, a lot of people think that that's the only definition of what a first-time home buyer is. In fact, a first-time home buyer is someone that obviously has never owned a home in the past, but also someone that has not owned a home in the last 3 years. So somebody owned a home, sold it 4 years ago, then they're considered a first-time home buyer again and can take advantage of first-time home buyer programs and products. Obviously, also for displaced spouses, during divorce situations when they own a home, and if the home is dissolved as a result of the divorce, has to be sold, or if one spouse keeps it, the displaced spouse also considered a first-time home buyer. I'd want to have folks visit the legal language with that, and those things can change, obviously, but that would be considered in today's guidelines as a first-time home buyer also. So when they're
no strategic divorces out there, though, right? We're not promoting any divorces out here.
That's
right?
Funny, because a lot of people in the workshops, when I would mention things
Right.
like that, I can hear them whispering and laughing.
Start looking at each other like, no, we need to qualify.
No promotions whatsoever.
This isn't happening right now. It's not worth it, right?
And so that's the definition of a first-time home buyer. Now, some programs you don't have to be a first-time home buyer to be eligible for, and that's another one that brings us to a new program that we've been working with the County of Ventura, monies that were that they've allocated to us to assist residents home in Ventura County purchase homes as well, and that's another pot of monies that we're talking about. We've just finalized the guidelines for those. We're finalizing the notes and the deeds on those. Still not available today, but any day now, we're going to have some availability to funds, and we can talk a little bit about the Hope to Home program. Cool. Again, this is the breaking news. We've been talking about it, and this is additional resources that we've been working on.
Do you mind touching on some of the moderate income? So you mentioned low income, some various programs that are great. They're huge. And then I still want to give an idea in terms of ballpark, because I remember, while I was working, we had the acquisition rehab. You talked about foreclosure and investors coming in and screwing things up, where don't mean screwing things up if you're an investor out there, but you know what I mean. Taking the opportunities, because some people strategically want to wait till the market comes down thinking, okay, I'm going to get a foreclosed property. I'm going to get a short sale. That's the only way I'm going to be able to afford anything, where they actually could find out now, start planning now, even if they're thinking a year from now, 6 months from now, 2 years from now, start planning now. Reach out to the experts, get the right guidance. We will help you and show you, because you don't always have to pay all your debt off. There's debt to income ratios that you can touch on, right? There's a healthy amount of debt that you can still afford to buy a home, but we need to be cognizant of that debt to income ratio. And again, these are things that I'd been in the business 10 years until I started working with you, Alex. You educated me on the lending side, where before I was just like, I don't need to know that. All I need to know is how to negotiate. I got to know the market. I have to know how to write an offer, how to present an offer. But anything financing, you start adding math and start throwing numbers and amortization. I still can barely say that word, right? You start throwing these numbers out there. It's like my head starts, you're speaking Chinese. Let's get it over to Alex over here. He'll do it. But what was cool is you educated us. You taught us how to understand what a debt to income ratio was. Now we could better qualify and better help prepare, because it was a team effort. There's only so much that you were able to do. So you had to equip us as real estate agents to also help promote the cause of furthering this. And that's what we're hoping for any agent that's watching this right now. The more that we can share, the more come into a home buyer workshop class, right? You still do those monthly home buyer workshop classes, right? And you do one in English and one in Spanish. And when I spoke to Bertha, she was mentioning increasing the amount of those. But agents are invited to that, correct?
Correct. Yeah, of course.
To learn it, to spread the good word of what's out there. And that's a great class. So anybody who's going through down payment assistance does need to take an 8-hour course. They can either go directly through VCCDC. Is there a cost for it at VCCDC?
No, there was a $25 cost, but we have a promo code that is free. And right now we have the online ones because of the stay-at-home order. So we're still doing them. Okay. They're online. We just actually did one, and it was well attended. Cool. So there is also the electronic, the eHome America, but those are about $99. So we're trying to also, provide a free service, even though it takes a lot more work for us to do it in person and bring people in. But we know that having someone in the room, being there, it's a lot of information. It covers everything. But on all the surveys that we get, we're 5 out of 5 stars, and the information that they get is just it puts them, what they say is that they are better equipped as buyers now to be able to purchase than they were before they went into that class. And that's what we want. We want better, more informed borrowers.
And to give just a quick overview of that 8-hour course, so there's a lending section that talks about the down payment assistance, talks about what it takes to qualify for a loan. And as we mentioned, many people who wouldn't be able to be homeowners are in these classes and now learning how they can take advantage and leverage the assistance that's out there so that they can become homeowners, break the cycle of poverty. Again, they're the first in a lot of situations in their families to ever own a home. So they're being educated the right way. I know you also have a stat out there that talks about the impact, not only that it's on the total economy by making these households homeowners, right? Their odds of going to college, their stats, and everything in terms of just having that stability of knowing I am a homeowner. I remember the one gal coming into our board meeting and just sharing and saying, we walk around like we're all that now, right? And she was a single mother.
Yes.
Never had her own room, shared a bed with her 14-year-old son and I think she had a 2-year-old daughter. Yep. They had to share a room, share a bed. And because of the acquisition rehab program we had at the time to compete with the cash investors, we acquired a 3-bedroom unit in Port Hueneme. It was an upstairs unit. They each had their own bedroom. And it was right before Christmas. I remember it was one of the first stories that, I still have a hard time keeping the tears back on that one, because she came in and she was so proud and so grateful. And if I remember correctly, it was probably making about $14 an hour, ballpark, $12, $14 an hour. Right. Her parents were farm workers, and I remember she shared that. But it was like the perfect just impact in the story, and then the gratitude that came from her. And they had no furniture in the entire house. They all just slept on the floor, couldn't afford, they barely had enough to get into the home. but they had their own 3-bedroom property with a payment that they could afford. And with the rental prices at a rental market at where it's at here, they couldn't have rented a 3-bedroom,
Right.
definitely not for less than $2,200. Her total payment with HOAs, with everything included, if I remember correctly, was somewhere between $1,200 to $1,400 a month, I think it was.
Yeah, I don't remember, but it was
Yeah,
very, very low because it was,
she got the
yeah,
down
she
payment
was able to
assistance.
comfortably pay it with the income that she was making. Right.
But that property would have been on the regular market, would have been a multiple offer situation, just being 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. But because of VCCDC creating this program, taking all the risk on buying the property, fixing it up, carrying cost, everything that's involved with it. I mean, it was, I remember your focus on making sure she was ready to go, counseling on getting her ready years before this opportunity became available. And that's part of where I want to share this with everybody. If everybody thinks, yeah, we can just wait and do this down the road, if things stars start aligning, that's the wrong way to go about it. When these opportunities come up, you got to have all your ducks in a row. You got to have everything ready to go. You have to have already worked on your credit. You have to already have saved money for, even if it is $5,500. $5,500 is tough to save with a high cost of living out here in Ventura County. So we want to encourage you to get started. Reach out to Alex. Reach out to, you have your transaction coordinator to set your appointment. Start one of these, just at least first steps. And then even if they're not ready to speak with you yet, you will point them in the right direction and get them set up with the proper people. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's exactly right.
Got me a little fired up just talking about that story, but I remember her coming into that board meeting.
There's so many more like those, there's so many more stories like that. And, I wish that we can capture a lot more. We've done some videos and we've shared them. Go to our program, our website, and we have some videos there. But a lot of great success stories that everybody in the industry obviously has. These just have a little different twist because, again, without these resources, they already knew there's no home available for me.
Right.
So when it's against all odds, it's those rocky stories, right? Against all odds, this is what we have, and that's why they just seem a little bit sweeter. Not to take away all of the success that everybody else has done to get into homeownership. It's not an easy task to do. But we see folks that come through our doors that realize, okay, let's try this, let's figure it out. And then at the end of that journey, when they get the keys to their home, it's just incredible, right?
I got to give a quick shout out. Ann Murphy, my professor at Gonzaga Law School, she just hopped on right now. And just got to say, hello, Mrs. Murphy. I hope you're doing well. Miss you, love you. I love you and your family. Thank you for the impact that you had on me out there. Didn't think I was going to make it past my first year, so I was grateful just to make it to your class and have you as a professor. But you had a huge impact on me. Part of the reason why I work for a nonprofit, part of the reason why I understood the importance of service. I know I disagreed with some of the things we talked about in tax class. She actually worked for the IRS and was amazing and awesome in terms of her ability to teach and inspire, and she inspired me, and I'm just grateful for you to watch this right now. So I hope I'm making you proud, Ann. And I'm talking or speaking with a very special person right now, Alex Vega, that I know you would also love and respect what he's doing and the impact he's having on the community. So wish you all the best, send you our love, and let's try to connect soon. Professor Murphy. And Alex, sorry for the segue, but just had to give that quick shout out, man. She's a very special person to me. Her and Milt Rowland were two professors that had a big impact on myself personally. So just want to give that quick shout out.
And that's what this is all about. We talk about people in our lives that have made a huge impact that allow us to be where we are today. And I hope a lot of these folks, Brandon, when we talk, going back to that conversation when you had just graduated from law school and you reached out to me, you said, Alex, what's going on? This is what I'm doing right now. Whatever you took in those classes, you coming to work for us as a nonprofit organization with a mission that isn't helping the $2 million earners out there buying $2 million homes.
Right.
The fact that when you and I had that conversation and we went out to eat and you told me about what you wanted to do, what you felt, what you needed to give, I'm sure a lot of that is from all the people that have touched your life, obviously, in the past, just like for me. And that's why I'm here. That's why I've been here 12 years now, and still feel the fire to continue to do it. You know, my boss knows this as well. And it's like, you know, we could be anywhere else. We could do certain things and go into the for-profit world and, you know, and increase what we earn. But there's a difference in the feeling to do that. The where you want to be, what's going to be on your tombstone, I hope one day is going to be, we really helped house those that never thought could get housed in the
Absolutely. Well, I know I took you off track, but I think it was great to touch on that personal level again. Let's talk some more about some of the impact out there, right? Some of the information we need to get out there to them. So you talked about the low income. I'd still like to get into some of the moderate income if you're okay. And there's also some areas that qualify that don't have area median income that can still use your assistance. Or is it for moderate income, certain areas qualify for that? Can you break that down?
There is. So there are certain programs, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac had a lot of these, the Home Ready, the Home Possible type programs that have dwindled down. You know, there's been some changes now to those products, where if you're buying a low income census tract, it doesn't matter what your income is. And the idea behind that was that we want professors, we want teachers, we want police officers that are probably earning more to be able to move into neighborhoods that are census tracts that are low income, because that's good for the neighborhood when we are able to mix it up, right? So having a higher income individual buying in a low income census tract, they would be able to get certain incentives from doing that, take advantage of the programs that low income would be able to take advantage of. One of the pushes that we have is when programs are designed, and look, we work with a lot of banks, regional, large banks, to help them design portfolio products, the programs that are going to get them and earn them CRA, Community Reinvestment Act credit, that right now is on the chopping blocks. Right now, CRA is in danger. Yeah.
Wow.
So for anybody out there, any of the clients that we've helped that know you receive CRA lending, you got these types of down payment assistance, portfolio products with no private mortgage insurance and only 3% down, you were able to do that because of CRA. So if you get an opportunity, contact your congressman, contact your senator and say, keep CRA alive the way it is. It was passed back in the 1970s, late 1970s, Brandon, 1979, to fight redlining, meaning that we're only going to take, banks would take deposits from certain neighborhoods, but never reinvest it into those neighborhoods. It would provide monies into other more affluent neighborhoods, and leaving those neighborhoods, those residents with no small business loans, no residential loans, no any loans of any type. So Congress stepped in the 1970s, I think it was passed in 1979, and said, no, that stops. If you're going to take deposits from these neighborhoods, you have to reinvest back into these neighborhoods. And that's what the Community Reinvestment Act has done. And a lot of the work that we do, a lot of the impact that we're able to have is because of CRA. And that right now is being changed on a federal level so that more credit is given to other things that aren't going to help communities. That's a whole different 1.5 hour segment, obviously, that we can have, but just want to go out there and say that.
I appreciate you putting that in.
Let's protect CRA and in fact expand it. So, so a lot of the programs that we've done, Brandon, is because I lost my train of thought. You were talking about
moderate income. Yes. Just because I want to show that it's not just low income specific, right?
Correct. So we talk about the census tract. Now, we see it, guys, with the price of rentals in the United States, specifically in Ventura County. Rental cost is pretty pricey.
Right.
The latest statistic, I don't know if you have this information, but the latest statistic for a 2-bedroom apartment in Ventura County is about $3,100 or $2,900, I think.
Okay.
Is that correct?
I was going to say closer to about 23 for a 2-bedroom.
For a 2-bedroom in the city?
Yeah. About 20. That's Camarillo, roughly 2-bedroom.
3-bedroom. 3-bedroom is about 29. Yeah, correct.
That's right. 3 bedrooms, 29. 2 bedrooms, about 23. one bedroom still up there. I mean, you're still
right.
getting to 17, 18. Go ahead.
So yes, thank you. So that's the price. When we look at moderate income families that are still paying insurance or rental and student loans, you talked about millennials and student loans.
Right.
It's very difficult. We see this. It's still a challenge to save monies for the down payment assistance, for the down payment for a first-time buyer or to purchase a home. And one of the myths is that you need 20% down to be able to buy. That's just simply not true. And there are programs. There's the state program through Cal HFA, the state of California, that helps anybody earning up to $193,200 and something or less. In fact, here I have it here, but it's I don't know if this information has been updated. $193,600. If you're earning $193,600 or less, independently of whatever your household size is,
Right.
you have a good opportunity of qualifying for the down payment assistance that these programs offer through the state. So that's great news. Now, they've also gone through some changes. Before they were providing 3.5% or 3% down.
Right.
Now that's maxed out at $10,000.
10K max. Okay, that still helps though.
So that it still helps.
Right.
So there's still these programs now.
A little lower on the PMI though, correct?
PMI, very low on the PMI. It's a discounted private mortgage insurance. And again, what this is, if you're not putting 20% down on a conventional product,
right.
It's to protect the banks, to protect the investors, because you're financing over 80% of the value.
No benefit to the borrower other than the additional costs. And roughly at a $400,000 or $500,000 purchase price, you're usually talking $200, $300, $400 additional a month. Not talking HOA. We're talking additional a month in the payment that hurts their purchasing power, correct?
Right.
And that's one of the ways with the down payment assistance, especially for the low income, there's no mortgage insurance, correct?
Well, it depends. So we had some of these portfolio programs have gone through changes. So there are portfolio programs that exist out there today that aren't advertised by your local banking institutions. You want to ask for them. They're not advertised because, again, this isn't a money-making program to meet CRA obligations. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, we work with so many of the CRA officers at a lot of these banks, know them all in the state. And whenever they're needing to meet CRA here in Ventura County, we see that they're trying to be creative in ways to do that, to make loans that make sense on the street, and even though they're going to get a haircut on Wall Street.
Right.
And they've come to us to help us. Okay, this is the success we've had at VCCDC. These are the tweaks you can make. This is the guidelines that you can change to make sure that people are able to take advantage of this, right?
Right.
And so we're grateful for them coming to us. It's been as a result of the success that we've had with these programs. And but at the same time, as they meet certain programs and they meet requirements, they're gone. They stop. Mm-hmm. This is why, again, CRA is so important, because if you don't have a commitment to have to fund and meet those obligations in those communities, right, they could potentially disappear. Okay. So that's the way that the moderate income is. We've gone forward as an organization at VCCDC, and we applied for additional monies to be able to assist moderate income home buyers. We were awarded $3.3 million from the state because of the success that we've had in making these monies available. And this is available for moderate income, up to moderate income home buyers. Okay. So last year, a moderate income, it's 120% of the area median income. So a household size of 4 that was earning $117,350 or less.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
A household size of 4, earning approximately $117,350 or less. Okay. Could potentially take advantage of these programs that we have for moderate income. That's 120% of the area median income. That's great.
And a lot of people fit under that 120%. There's a lot of people that can take advantage of that. And I've heard you talk about, even in some situations, it makes more sense to go this route, even over VA, which VA is very strong right now with no mortgage insurance, no money down, potentially. In what type of situation where would it be a benefit to do that?
So with the VA, the program that I just talked about right now, and Berta's gonna kill me for talking about it too soon, but we do have it. We're writing the guidelines on this.
Oh, you'll get it.
Guys, no, we have it. We have we have the program already, but we haven't actually provided. We haven't done any news or press releases on it or anything.
Right.
So you've got to stay tuned. As soon as we release this, Brandon, this is moderate income to a pretty high amount of money per household. Okay, so people need to follow us on Facebook or like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, because that's where we're going to be able to. That's where we're going to disseminate all this information in real time.
Right.
And the benefit with VA. So you're absolutely right. VA, phenomenal program, phenomenal product for our active and retired military. And a shout out to everybody that's been in the military. Your pops included. I know he's there. So shout out to everyone that's served, men and women in uniform. The VA program, as Brandon mentioned, 100% financing. Great program. When we've had VA members that are low income and were eligible for the down payment assistance programs that we had, like the VCCDC Cal Home program that was provided to us by the state, within the state statutes, it does not allow these loans to be assumable like the VA loan does. The VA loan is an assumable loan.
Right.
The state program is not. So language doesn't communicate with each other. So what we would do is when it made sense, we would provide a first mortgage that was not VA, and it was a no PMI, no private mortgage insurance, and we would provide the down payment assistance. So what they were doing now is that they were qualifying and making payments on a lesser amount as opposed to the 100% of the value of the home. If they got 20,000, 30,000, it would be, they'd only be making payments on the loan amount minus the down payment assistance. So it put them in a better situation payment wise, and it allowed their VA, they could use it at some point in the future, somewhere else. But we would always do that apples to apples comparison and exactly bring them down, because you're looking at an apple and a banana over here, but you have to be able to analyze them in a total cost analysis that we would do specifically for the mortgage industry and mortgage financing type lending products, so that they can make that decision themselves. And again, 9 times out of 10, it was better to do the first mortgage, conventional or portfolio product with a down payment assistance programs.
Okay. Good to know. You good? How you doing? Any things that you want to touch on? I mean, I guess some of it just with the forbearance, some people are considering doing that right now, right? What would you kind of, I guess, warn people that are considering doing the forbearance? Could that have an impact? It's not supposed to hit on their credit.
Right.
At least from what I've heard, it's not supposed to hit on the credit, but you definitely want to confirm that with whoever your mortgager is.
Right.
But what could be the downside to that if somebody is kind of on the fence, like, should I do it? Should I not do it? Obviously, if they can make the payments, we always want to advise them to make the payments, because this could have a huge downhill spiral, in terms of creating another bubble or issue, especially setting bad habits in terms of people not making their payments. But some truly need to take advantage of that. If somebody's getting ready for purchasing, how can this have an impact for them?
So that would be for somebody who's getting ready for purchasing, that would be more of the rental assistance.
Correct. Right.
But specifically for the people that have mortgages today and thinking about the forbearance. Now, from what I've read, the latest information that's out there is that it would be potentially, a 3-month forbearance, depending on how long this is going to take. And there were some conversations early on how this could work, and whether it was going to be a forbearance and then it was going to be added on to the loan, to the total loan of the homeowner. That was different. But what I understand it to be today is that it could be up to 3 months forbearance. Again, your servicer, everybody has to agree to be a part of this, so the servicers aren't being forced to. But after that 3 months, you would have to pay the full amount back in full. So it's not added on. It's just you have 3 months, but you're almost like saving it to have to pay it again. And what's going to be difficult is that if families are using that for other expenses and are not able to save up to 3 months, we don't know what's going to happen at that point. Is that 4th month going to be considered a late payment if they're not able to pay it? If this forbearance was that you're able to not make certain payments and they're going to add it on, no penalties, no fees, no credit impact, that's a different story, so that you can use those monies for your everyday expenses. But you've got to talk to your servicer. You've got to talk to counselor. We mentioned that what this is. And there's more information as it's every day. There's new information about what's going to potentially happen with this, with the mortgage relief act and the.
Any other things that you're seeing that's currently happening? I know you handle quite a few transactions, right? You lend to a lot of different folks right now.
Yeah.
What are you seeing recently? Any hiccups, any issues that are coming up just due to the whole stay-at-home order? I know appraisers, their guidelines have changed some where some can do desktop appraisals.
Drive by only on the outside,
right?
exactly. Yes.
Are you seeing delays in timing in terms of the processing with the underwriter? Or what are you seeing from your lens?
I think as far as and everyone's going to be different, but everybody that we've worked with has been able to streamline over to just working from home, to still having all of the everything to be able to take a file from beginning to end. So we've seen that now. I think the biggest concern that we're seeing is the fluctuation in the interest rates. And there's obviously no rhyme or reason for it. It was difficult when the market was tanking. Rates dropped significantly, because your typical situation is, and again, this is going back to economics, is that people would pull out of the stock market and park their money in bonds.
Right.
And that would have an impact on long-term mortgage-backed securities, bringing them down. You saw the overnight lending rate that was dropped down to practically to zero.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd get a lot of calls, hey, the rates are zero now, but that's an overnight Fed funds rate, right? That has really no bearing on long-term interest rates. In fact, over the last 10 years, when you looked at the drop in the short-term overnight spending rate,
right,
you actually had an increase in the long-term rates. Now, but this is a little bit different. And it took a while for me to wrap my brain around why were the rates jumping so much when the market indicates that they should be at an all-time record low. And they were for a little while. And everybody flooded the market, to try to refinance. I know we had a lot of clients that did that, and were able to take advantage of that. But this was happening on a national level. And what happened was that the servicers that buy these loans, that service the loans for you, that you make payments to, they collect these payments and send them off to the investors, Fannie, Freddie, the institutional investors. What they would normally do, Brandon, let's just say they would pay 1% to buy those loans to be able to service them. And they probably got 30 basis points or they've got a little bit where they would break even on a monthly recuperation of their fees over a 3-year period. But they were still committed. They had already paid that 1% out. So when people were racing to refinance loans that they had only taken out 6 months ago, 1 year ago, 2 years ago, the servicers were losing their pants. So they had to back that up. And the only way to make it less attractive to refinance was to increase those interest rates to stop the flow. Mm-hmm. Today, because of the hedging costs for servicers and not knowing what's going to happen with employments, is that we're also seeing that these rates are basically being passed on. That risk, the hedge cost, is being passed on to the consumer, which we're seeing it on the interest rate per se. Now, that's not to say that that's going to be forever. We're seeing a better control and less volatility. And as soon as this is done, I think it'll go down to more realistic numbers, to where the markets that we are all used to would show that they need to be at, to have a better pulse on this. And that's another reason why people need to be ready. Right now we're seeing these highs and lows in the market, but just being ready, so when this is done and we have a more standard or less volatile interest rate market, mortgage-backed securities interest rate market, that we're able to lock those rates for them at that point.
And my prediction, and all it's worth is just a hunch, right? It's nothing more than that. There's a lot of bottling up that's happening right now. People are on the sidelines. People are literally at home realizing, okay, I want a bigger house. This really isn't fitting what I'm looking for, or I want to own my own house, because they may have had a call, even though there's no evictions that are supposed to be happening right now. I know personally, I have a few clients who were planning to move their properties this year. Again, we're getting past the peak in terms of the cycle, but we thought that was going to be the case 2 years ago, and there's still been appreciation over the last 2 years. So with all that being said, what do you see just in terms of happening? I think it's important and smart to get ready now, to start planning, to start knowing what your financial situation is, to look at it, to have your credit run, to work on your credit, to do the things that you can do. Obviously, try not to just, actually listening to the Dave Ramsey show, he was mentioning, look, if I have the option to pay down debt or stockpile the cash right now, right? Stockpile it, make sure that you're going to be good, depending, just because of the uncertainty of the job market. But a lot of it is you got to evaluate, what type of field am I in? What type of work am I in? What industry am I in, right? If you're in the oil industry, not really the best industry to be working in right now. If you have a job where you have to meet people face to face, it's pretty challenging to work from home or to be employed. Now, those jobs should come back, and we don't know how long this is going to take. So that's where the planning becomes important, right? Get the help, get the resources that you can get right now. Make sure you stop the bleeding as much as you can. But more importantly, if you are still working, try to plan, try to reach out to Alex, try to reach out to VCCDC and just get rolling with that. But what do you see? Nobody knows how long yet, right? But what do you see in terms of when things get back to whatever the new normal is, right? Do you think that we're going to see another little boom? Similar to what we saw right before this happened, that Friday, hate to say Friday the 13th, but that Friday that we got that stay-at-home order. What do you predict?
My gosh, I'm really not in the business for predictions, but
what do you see from your experience, man? What do you sense? Do you see a major correction happening right now where we're going to see a huge price adjustment? Do you see sellers flooding the market trying to really get out of California right now? What do you see?
I don't think that there's going to be any major changes right now. People are all hunkered down. The employment market, what I do see is it's going to take a long time to recover. A lot of these businesses, depending, this whole the PPP, the paycheck program that's going out there, the small business loans from the Small Business Administration that's being issued out to small businesses to encourage them to continue to keep their folks on staff, money that's coming in. So we are seeing a lot of that seems to the stimulus package to people, the checks that are going to be coming out. Whether that's going to be enough or not, who knows? So are people going to start suffering to where they're not making certain payments, where a credit card payment can affect their credit scores, where that can affect their ability to buy because they're seeing these things? Or will the industry realize that, no, we've got to make exceptions for everything that's happened? Where Congress can step in, that this isn't going to be something that we're going to judge people on if they were let go, if their job didn't come back in full swing. The whole thing is now that there could be, when the heat comes in, it can kind of kill this coronavirus, but there could be a second wave of that later on. Are people going to still be living in fear and going out to these restaurants less, our service industries that you talked about? So the impact on the economy is obviously felt right now. We're seeing the billions and billions of dollars that we're losing on a worldwide level. But rightly so. We want people to stay home. We want people to stay safe. We're also seeing this rise now of 350-something thousand cases just in the United States alone. So, I don't know, Brandon. I don't know. I think we already lived a really tough residential market with the tight inventory that we were seeing. The rates were changing that as the rates were coming down to bring more people that were sitting on the fence to move forward and make more offers, and hence why we were seeing these bidding wars that were happening. But it's just hard to say. I think regardless whatever happens, without more properties built in a responsible way, that we are able to build and house people that are here, without that, we're always going to have this shortage. Doesn't matter where the rates are. Doesn't matter, how much down payment assistance we have, because the higher the price of properties, the more assistance we need to be able to assist. And it's no secret that our wages have stayed pretty flat. In fact, in real terms, we've probably seen a decrease in wages over the last 10 years, while our appreciation of properties have actually increased. So, those are not good recipes, and why you're probably seeing people leave and more wealthy people come into the state. And again, some will argue, hey, well, if you can't afford to be here, don't be here. No, that's not what I don't prescribe to that. I think that we are creating the situation when we don't want to build, when we're saying not in our backyard. We know that. And I've now talked to parents, families that are in their retirement age, that are trying to help their kids because their kids are going to leave the state. And they're saying, no, I want them close. I want my grandchildren close. And not realizing that, look, this is going to separate families, even the ones that say, I don't want to build in my backyard, but oh my gosh, we need to house my child so they can stay here. We got to think about what all that's going to mean if we want to keep family close, and that they don't leave because they can't afford to stay here, but that they leave because they choose to.
No, that's awesome, man. And didn't mean to put you on the spot with the tough. I mean, we're all, the best we can all do is follow our gut. The biggest thing, that's what we talked about, the self-evaluation of where you're at. Control what you can control, right? Focus on the things that you can do. Right now, you can better educate yourself. Right now, if you're thinking of another career, I know, my brother just recently actually just enrolled in his real estate classes. He's had a great job with GNC for the last 12 years. He's done excellent by them. He's done very well in their leadership, their management. I'm excited that he's looking into real estate, because it is something that our family's been a part of for, past the last 2 decades here in Ventura County. So it's awesome to truly have that family business and have him be a part of it with his talents and what the impact he's going to have with many people. So, I guess if there's anything else, any final thoughts or any things, I know we covered a lot, just anything that you would like to touch on and share before we wrap this up.
No, I think just having everyone obviously letting know one thing that I didn't come back to circle on was the Hope to Home program that we have.
Yeah,
that's the one with the county, up to $23,000. So realistically, pretty soon, low-income families, we can assist them with up to $70,000 in down payment assistance, of which $45,000 of that, Brandon, is forgiven after 5 years.
That is insane, man.
That's huge. I don't care who you've talked to anywhere ever, that just doesn't exist. Yeah. And and it behooves everybody to learn about these types of programs and to go out there and thank those in government that are working with us to bring these programs to the community. They know that we have a housing crisis. They know that there's a challenge for those that are trying to stay here, and we're trying to fill that need. It's just us through partnerships and people like you, Brandon, also share that passion. But you want to know that these programs exist. They're not experimental.
Right.
So if you ever have somebody that's buying and has 3 layers of financing with 2 types of programs, now talk about the realtors that are out there. These programs do exist. They do work, and they make a massive, major difference to those that are able to buy, that you're able to accept these listings or their offers on listings and not be afraid of the programs because of the layers. They're out there. I know that, everybody has different experiences with these. Municipalities have different types of structures on how they work. The ones that I've talked about right now, we're all managing them in-house. These are our guidelines, our rules, our underwriting. And so we have more control of those. But even with those with the municipalities, you want to give those a chance. You want to be able to work with those because we've helped so many in the city of Oxnard, Thousand Oaks, Simi Valley, and Moore Park right now, Ojai. We talked about this program. We can layer all of this, and it's important. And it's important to be able to do that to make a difference in people's lives, a positive difference.
How many people, just as we're wrapping up, would you say that you've impacted just in the last month, maybe year to date, maybe over the last year? I know, we always got drilled. No offense to anybody in terms of knowing our numbers, right? Knowing our goals, our stretch goals, who we were trying to impact, right? All great things that I'm grateful that I was shown, the way at VCCDC. What would you say in terms of, just because I want people to know how many successful closes that you've had, and it does get kind of tied into when you hear down payment assistance, they think, well, I had one negative experience. Yeah. Maybe it was something with the city, no offense to any cities, right? That had some stricter regulations and guidelines that you don't necessarily have on your traditional transactions, right? With the down payment assistance. So it's not all the same. So you really got to know your product. You got to know what you're pushing. What is it? What would you say in terms of impact? Just in the last month, just rough numbers. Doesn't have to be exact.
In the last month, we were able, even throughout this process, as we were going through the stay-at-home order, as an organization, because we are small, and but in the last month, we've been able to fund 7 transactions, but all of those, many of those have multiple layers of financing on them.
Right.
When we look at the last years, we've done over $200 million in down payment assistance from since I've been at the organization. And all of those assistance, when we look at one transaction, it's, I tell this to a lot of the people that I work with, that I wish, I just had well, I don't really, or else I would be there, that it was just an FHA first mortgage, a conventional first mortgage. Sweet, right. Easy, get them done, right? When we have when we have the multiple layered financing and the hand holding that's involved in this,
right.
And that we basically, when we approve somebody, we've basically already vetted them for eligibility of down payment assistance programs and products, and the qualification for a first mortgage. Right. So they've jumped through the hoops per se. Mm-hmm. And so this information, like when we look at that, the amount of monies and the amount of work, it's like almost providing 3 different loans for one person, right. And so if you were to multiply that, it's a lot more loans that we're doing. Sure. And look, and here's the reality, Brandon. There's a reason why sometimes we're the only ones that are doing it, because there's so much work and time involved that, it's not a moneymaker for people that are just doing it on their own. Right. And look, I don't begrudge them for it. It makes sense. There's a lot of work that's involved in this, and hence why we're working with a lot of banks, with a lot of other nonprofit organizations to be able to do that. I don't think that if I worked alone somewhere, I'd be able to do it. Right? You need a team around you. You need the people around you. You need that support. You need the bank support. You need everybody. The Federal Home Loan Bank. I mean, look, we just have a new member that's going to sit on us from the Federal Reserve as a new board member. And we've done amazing work with the Federal Reserve, the FDIC, and the OCC. And all of that impact that we've done working together with them, they've realized, okay, they continue to support us to be able to do this. So there's a lot of work. That was a long-winded way to answer what the impact has been. But, when we say, we've closed maybe in the last month, just 7 loans, multiply that times 3. Right. And and again, and because we're specifically focusing on a very targeted mission-based client.
No, absolutely. As well as, and 7, with your percentages before, that's six households that wouldn't have been able to own a home if it weren't for your efforts. So thank you for your selflessness, your team's selflessness. You got an awesome team. Marisol, I got to give her a shout out. Alberto, miss you guys. You guys are all amazing, good people. It's all the same, passionate, caring from the heart in terms of how you do your business. You're awesome, man. So you guys always have a special place in my heart. If there's anything I can do to help spread the word, that was the goal of this call. For anybody that's watching, that's interested, shoot me a quick message. We're actually at 10 o'clock. Are you still good for 10 tomorrow? Do a quick Q&A. We can shorten it up too. You put more time on this one. But just for any of you that have any direct questions and would like to hear, kind of break down how you can present it to your client, how you can present the offer to an agent, because that's critical to know that you understand really how it all works, but more importantly, that you can get the deal closed, right? Because that's what every listing agent, that's what every seller, when they pick a family that is using the down payment assistance, sometimes you have higher offers, but maybe because it means something to you, or you read the cover letter, or you read something about it, it hits you in the heart, and you want to try to provide this opportunity for somebody who may not have that shot, right? And I do think that for your borrowers that are ready right now, they have some unique opportunities out there. If they're willing to write without seeing inside the property, you can write it subject to inspection. So there's some creative ways to lock up some properties. And then there's some addendums out there to give you more time. So you don't have to close in 30 days, 45 days. You don't need to use your regular 21-day timelines, because we're all in the same boat. On the listing side, we're not showing the property, right? It's all got to be virtual. So we have to work together. We got to be creative. We got to think outside the box. And I hope this helps initiate some of those ideas. So Alex, we're going to collab tomorrow at 10 o'clock Pacific for anybody that wants to jump on it. We'll send it out. We'll try to do a live if we can, but more importantly, I want to do kind of a meeting session. This is a webinar, so it doesn't show everybody, but on the meeting session, you can actually, if they want to show their face and speak to you, they can do it. And it's like a mastermind group where we all brainstorm and how can we help each other out. But more than anything, it's getting the word out, because you can help a lot of families out. And the only way, there's only so many that you can help personally and get that word out to, and then it's by word of mouth, right? So it's so important, us as realtors are advocates for what you do, help get your offers accepted, but also help spread the word so people know that this product is out there. And it's worth the challenges that you may overcome or may see, just knowing that, I mean, it's life-changing for so many folks. So thank you. Any other final words you'd like to touch, man?
No, I just want to thank you for this opportunity, Brandon, for continuing to do what you do. Your whole family. It's great to hear when I talk to your mom and dad that you were joining the team, and that your brothers are all. This is a family affair, man. You guys are going to do great, and look forward to working with all of you. And I'm glad that you're fighting the fight.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it's exciting, man. Got some great things. Well, thank you all for your time. For those of you that have joined us again tomorrow, 10 a.m., we're going to do this Q&A. It'll be about 45 minutes is what we'll shoot for. If it goes a little bit after, we'll handle it. But Alex, thank you for your time from your family and from your work and your clients. Appreciate what you do. Please tell the whole VCCDC family thank you. Again, it's vccdc.org. Do you want to share any other contact information right now for anybody that may want to jot it down?
vccdc.org. The phone number is 805-273-7800. And we do have someone answering the calls even during this stay-at-home order.
Cool. I'm writing the number down again, 805. Can you say that one more time?
273-7800.
7800. And the office is located, I remember, on Sturgis. What's the address?
2231
Sturgis
Road, Suite A.
Suite A.
Yeah.
And that's
Oxnard.
right off of Rice there. So I just put your phone number or the office phone number. I put the website address. I put the actual location. Again, homebuyer workshops that are out there that are great for everybody, for the agents as well as for the community to learn the proper way to purchase. The other last thing I know we didn't touch on, we can touch on tomorrow, is just how many people who you've qualified because you do the proper type of lending that they've actually been able to keep their home just based on doing responsible lending. So huge impact in many ways. But Alex, thank you for your time. I think this is going to impact a lot of people. And I'm just appreciative of you and can't thank you enough, man. But we will connect again tomorrow if that still works for you. You good?
I'm good.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up. I'm going to stop this now. Stopping it on Facebook, and then